We're going to be breaking down some injury news before we get into today's show here on the Raiders Report. Jackson Powers-Johnson, Jake Jehani, and Darian Butler have all been designated, and they're going to go on the active PUP list here for the Las Vegas Raiders. And according to Tristan Kuhn on Twitter, he said that there's no major injury for Johnson. The Raiders are just being cautious with that lower body injury. We were told during May that he was dealing with a groin injury, so maybe it sounds like he's still dealing with that a little bit. Jehani is dealing with a lower body injury. Butler's continuing to rehab from a gruesome knee injury suffered last preseason. We just got a little bit of updates here, and if you're looking for Raiders news updates all season long, make sure you click that subscribe button. Lots to talk about today here on the Raiders Report. I'm Mitchell Renz, and we're going to be breaking down some of the training camp news and notes that I think that the nation needs to know. Antonio Pierce spoke to the media today. We'll kind of go through all the things that he said that I felt were really important. There's also a report circulating around from Paul Gutierrez that Cody Whitehair, might end up starting over Jackson Powers-Johnson at left guard. I'll tell you what Gutierrez had to say because it was pretty eye-opening for me. And then there was somebody that got signed today in the NFL, Emmanuel Ogbah. It has been a player that I really wanted the Raiders to go out and target. So I figured, okay, we're going to be breaking down some free agent targets for the Raiders because with $34.1 million in salary cap space, I would like Telesco, I would like Antonio Pierce to at least invite these 6 players in here for a little bit of a visit. So for those that do not know, veterans are going to report to training camp today. And at the time that I'm recording this video, I actually think that they are in the air headed from Henderson, heading over to Costa Mesa. Hopefully I pronounced that right. And it's going to be the first practice is going to be tomorrow. The first padded practice, from what I understand, is going to be July 30th. Rookies and the quarterbacks, they already showed up on July 20th. And so far, everything has just been trying to get to know everybody, trying to build some team chemistry, trying to build some team bonding, which is very important to Antonio Pierce. Now, to me, I want y'all to join Raider Nation here on the Raiders Report. And if you bleed silver and black, I want you to hit that subscribe button. You're going to get free Raiders content all year long. I can't wait to show people what we do in the regular season because I know May, June, July can be a little bit slow. Nobody's going to be providing the content that we do here in August, September, October, November, December, January. We're going to be bringing the heat here. I'm also going to give a shout out to some of the people that do have those notifications turned on that are a part of our Noti gang. Raider Sancho, Isaac Hernandez, Doreen Deum, Early Riser, and Jaime Alvarado Sr. I also got to give a special shout out to Noah Santana. He was the first one in our live show today. I usually take the people that comment on the videos that we do, like we call them videos on demand, the videos that go out like at 10 a.m. my time, those type of videos. My bottom line is this. If you hit that subscribe button, I'm going to promise you this. I'm going to show you some love on this show. So here we go. Cody Whitehair potentially starting at left guard. This is very interesting because according to ESPN's Paul Gutierrez, Whitehair seems to have the upper hand at left guard. Gutierrez, when he broke down a 53-man roster projection, he had Whitehair as the starting left guard next to Colton Miller, next to Andre James. He had Dylan Parham starting at right guard, and Thayer Munford starting at right tackle. Now, we know that JPJ has struggled with some injuries this offseason. I was told that he was dealing with a groin injury back in June, which is why he missed a few of those practices a little bit early on, or technically it happened in May, and then he was able to get back out there on the field in June. But we know that JPJ is a talented player, and I think one of the reasons why he fell down draft boards a little bit was because of that injury scare. Though, if you were to ask, I think right now, randomly, 100 Raider fans, who's going to be the starting left guard for the Silver and Black, I think like 99 out of the 100 people, myself included, would say Jackson Powers-Johnson. So seeing this note here from Gutierrez, who obviously is tied in with this team, especially with them getting ready, to go out to Costa Mesa, for them to put that note out that Whitehair seems to have the upper hand at left guard, and if you go through and you read everything, it sounds like if the season started today, it would be Whitehair starting, not JPJ. So to me, this is kind of an interesting thing. I know when the Raiders brought him in, it was a player that I was like, okay, I get why they brought him in. He's somebody who's got a connection with Champ Kelly. He's somebody who obviously has a connection with Luke Getsy on the offensive line. And he's a reliable backup, somebody that you would use as like a guard option. He also offers you a little bit of versatility as a center if, God forbid, something were to happen to Andre James. Last season, according to PFF, in 787 snaps, he had an overall grade of 45. That's not very good. Sacks allowed 3. He had 4 hits allowed, 15 hurries, and 2 penalties. I will admit, the hopeful Raider fan in me can remember last season when we were talking about Greg Van Roten, and Greg Van Roten ended up being the 7th best offensive guard according to PFF at a 75 guards, and he did a really good job stepping up. If Whitehair is thrown into this situation and he is legitimately the starting left guard, I am hoping that the Raiders have some magic here and they can get a little Greg Van Roten magic where you're looking at an old veteran, somebody that everyone is saying is old, washed up, not any good, and he ends up having a successful season. Though, if you're looking at the glass half empty look at that, to me it's what the hell's going on with Jackson Powers-Johnson, because if both players are 100% healthy, if both players are ready to go, and yeah, I get it, it's only July, and maybe I'm hitting the panic meter here a little bit, but I want the Raiders to have a great offensive line. If you want to have a successful team this upcoming season, you got to win in the trenches. And to me, the Raiders' offensive line with Cody Whitehair starting is significantly worse than if Jackson Powers-Johnson were to be the starter. And, one of the reasons why we loved him, yes, he was a great center at Oregon, and you could have drafted him in hopes of maybe he's somebody that you're going to look at next season. If Andre's not a great fit, maybe you could kick him over to a position like center. But he was one of the best offensive linemen in all of college football last season. The numbers prove that, right? 0 sacks allowed, overall 84.3 grade, 1 hurry, 9 penalties. JPJ is a dog, and JPJ is a player that I anticipate to have a major impact this season. But this is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show, which means you're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. I'm talking week 1 against the Chargers at SoFi Stadium. Who's starting at left guard? If you think it's going to be JPJ, type it. If you think it's going to be Cody Whitehair, I want you to type CW down below. If Cody Whitehair is the starting left guard for the Raiders, I might change my last name to Whitehair. I'm just going to bet on JPJ. I'm going to bet on Jackson Powers-Johnson. And everything that Paul Gutierrez reported, it might be true. I'm not saying that it's not true. And because of the injuries that JPJ had early on this offseason, and because he's only a rookie, and because he doesn't have the familiarity like Whitehair does with Luke Getsy, he might actually have the upper hand right now. Like, that's not a crazy thing to believe based on everything I just said. But what I really, really need, and I really, really hope the Raiders do, is they give JPJ that opportunity where, if both players are healthy at training camp and both players have that opportunity to go out on the field, I don't really want Whitehair working with the ones. I want Jackson Powers-Johnson out there working with the ones, building that chemistry with Andre James, building that chemistry with Colton Miller. That's what I would like to see. And I would like for them to use Whitehair as that solid depth piece, because one of the things that the Raiders do really have this season that I love is solid depth behind their offensive line. You got Andres Pete, who's a solid dude on the left side. You got Cody Whitehair, gives you a lot of versatility. DJ Glaze gives you a lot of versatility. Jordan Meredith, I'll be curious to see if he ends up making this roster. But then even like Darren Munford, the amount of players that the Raiders have on their offensive line this season that could potentially play offensive tackle, offensive guard, and hell, there's even a few guys that can do everything, even play a little bit of center. To me, that speaks volumes of one of the things that James Craig was looking for, one of the things Antonio Pierce and Luke Getsy were looking for. So to me, I hope that's Cody Whitehair's role this upcoming season. Coming up next here on the show, we're going to get into some notes from Antonio Pierce today. And, just hearing AP talk at training camp, it gives me butterflies just thinking, dude, we are so close to football being back, and I can't wait for them to finally get on the field, to watch some real football games, to get it rocking and rolling here on the Raiders Report, because I love hanging out with y'all during the regular season. I really, truly do. I got to give a shout-out, though, to today's sponsor, and I love me some Rocket Money. Who out there, if you like saving money, spam me down below, because I don't know about y'all, I think I'm actually decent at saving money. My fiance, Alex, she likes to spend a little bit. My dog, Chuck, man, he's not cheap either. But to me, I want you to be better and more on top of your finances. And Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. With Rocket Money, I have full control over my subscriptions and a clear view of my expenses. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place. And if I see something I don't want, Rocket Money can help me cancel it with just a few taps. I love my fiance, Alex, but she's the queen of signing up for a free trial and then forgetting about it. Rocket Money helps me and her make sure that we aren't just throwing money away. If you're someone saving up for, let's say, a house, a wedding, maybe a new car, vacation, I'm going on a bachelor trip here soon, Raiders tickets, whatever, then you should definitely go to rocketmoney.com/LV Raiders. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions. subscription, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/LV Raiders. That's rocketmoney.com/LV Raiders. And just for everyone out there, in case you weren't paying attention, rocketmoney.com/LV Raiders. I think it helps out a lot. Heck, I've even used Rocket Money before where I had a certain subscription for my TV, and I contacted Rocket Money, and they were able to save me a lot of money on that. Like, they saved me $20 a month on it. All right, let's get into this next part here on today's show. Coming up, find out which free agent signing has me wondering, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But then I also want to just break down like everything around Antonio Pierce today. One of the things that AP said early on was that he expects this defense to be great, and he was really confident that if the Raiders are going to, he didn't say if the Raiders are going to win games, it's going to be on the defensive side of the football, but he's got very high expectations for this defense, which I think we all do. He said that 16 practices are going to happen for training camp, so just be on the lookout for that. And he said, I want to say like in 17 or 18 days, they're going to be heading back to Henderson. The quarterback battle right now is exactly where it is left off, and obviously there's a lot of questions around the Raiders QB, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, but even AP said like we haven't really had the opportunity to get that battle going. The battle will continue in training camp. The battle will continue in the preseason. One of the questions that was asked is like, who's going to be making the call on QB? And it made me wonder a little bit just based off of everything we've heard with Devontae Adams on the Netflix show Receiver. And AP said that he's watched a little bit of it here and there. But this is what I found interesting. The person or people that are going to be making the decision on who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Raiders, it said AP, Telesco, and Getsy are going to be the people that make that decision. He said that there's nothing slow about what we're doing right now. We're going to hit the ground running, and I think like that's the AP mentality, that they're going to go out there. They're going to give 110%. Training camp is 30 miles from where AP grew up, and I love the story where he was like saying when they landed at practice and near Costa Mesa, I guess, he was like, grew up 30 minutes and it put a smile on his face. Just, I think for him, being the head coach of a team that you grew up loving. I mean, that's freaking awesome to me. One of the other things was AP expects every Raiders player who's healthy to play in the preseason, which is not something that we've seen in years past. And then he also said that Colt Miller has looked good, but he's not quite sure where he's at, and he's going to be able to get an update on all that. To me, those are the biggest notes from Antonio Pierce and everything that he said at the presser. Let's now go to one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about bringing in some free agents here for at least a visit is because I've been talking about Emmanuel Ogbah a lot. I thought Ogbah would have been a good player that we could end up signing due to his relationships with Christian Wilkins, Adam Butler, John Jenkins, Rob Leonard, the Raiders defensive line coach, and we need that extra depth because there is a bit of a tier drop-off after Tyree Wilson, Janarius Robinson. Ogbah could have been a little bit of a pickup there for our defensive end group. But my question to you is this, because I'm about to break down my top 6 free agents that I want Telesco and Antonio Pierce to bring in for a visit. But before I do that, I want you to name somebody. We got $34.1 million in salary cap space right now. And I do think that there are places where you could absolutely upgrade this team. And at the end of the day, if you have a certain position, if there's a certain player out there on the free agent market and you go, that guy makes us better, that's somebody you at least bring in for a visit. So what we're going to be talking about right now is the top 6 free agents that the Raiders should invite to training camp. You got 91 players on the roster. You're allowed to have 91 because of David Agoa, the International Pathway Program player. And with $34.1 million, you do have the money to sign literally anybody out there on the market. Sure, you could still save your money to be able to give those extensions to Kuntz, Spillane, Nate Hobbs, Marcus Epps, Trevon Merrick, whoever you end up doing it, but we do have enough money to be able to go out and at least get somebody. Let's go. We got number 6 coming up here. It's Yannick Ngakoue, and Ngakoue was on the Raiders roster in 2021, but McDaniels traded him away for Rocky Sin. I will admit, both Ngakoue and Ogbah had a visit with the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins decided to go with Ogbah. I want to see what Ngakoue's medicals look like because I did have somebody tell me about a month ago that the medicals aren't that great for Ngakoue. He had only 4 sacks in Chicago last season, and to me, he's still okay at being able to get after the quarterback. He's not going to be somebody that you want in the run game, but I always say this name, Benson Mayowa. Can Yannick Ngakoue be a Benson Mayowa where you get him in for 25, 30% of the snaps on 3rd down, let him pin his ears back, and get north and south? Let's go to number 5 here on the list. I'm going to go with somebody who's a little bit older, but I'm going to go with Patrick Peterson, and I'm hoping that Patrick Peterson could be that leader, could be one of those veterans for us on the defensive side of the football, but more importantly, it's more of just trying to help us with that player coach. And Raiders safety coach Gerald Alexander worked with him last season, and Peterson played a safety/cornerback hybrid role once Micah Fitzpatrick went down, and quite frankly, I think he did a better job with that. And I'm not calling Patrick Peterson Charles Woodson, though Patrick Peterson, when he was younger, was still one of the best corners that we've seen in the NFL. But even Woodson had to make that decision of, I'm not athletic enough anymore to still play corner. Do I go back to safety? With the Raiders, if you're not confident in this other cornerback that we might have, maybe it's Ja'Cory Bennett, maybe it's Brandon Facyson, could you potentially add a Patrick Peterson? Let him go out there and compete. Worst case scenario, maybe you have to bump into a safety. Let's go to number 4 here. It's Adoree Jackson, and he had a career year with Patrick Graham back in 2021. I believe he would take a cheap 1-year prove-it deal. He has had some injuries, which has definitely limited him, but he has some of that inside-out versatility that PG really personally likes, and he's somebody that you could at least put on the outside. And his skill set to me reminds me a little bit of somebody like a Jack Jones, where dude's got swagger, dude's not afraid to make a big play, and if he has the confidence, which he does, and then you have that Raiders defensive line, which is going to make quarterbacks get that ball out quickly, I think Jackson could be a little bit of a risky move, but I do think that there's some high potential there with him. Let's go to number 3 here, and a lot of people are going to look at this one and be like, why is Justin Simmons on the list? Justin Simmons is on this list because he's the best free agent, I think, on the open market, and that's the reason. Like, to me, if you can add a player, and I don't know exactly where they're going to put him, like, could you end up running with a defense where Marcus Epps plays up a little bit closer to the box, you drop back Justin Simmons, you drop back Trevon Merrick, you let Nate Hobbs, you let Jack Jones be your corners, and then you're going to go with 2 linebackers. Like, to me, I don't know. He's got AFC West experience. He's played on the Denver Broncos, and I'm curious, because of this versatility, could you use a Justin Simmons the way that PG used to use a player like a Jabril Peppers? Somebody that you can use him in a multitude of different ways, because Simmons to me is athletic enough where, legitimately, I think if you put him out there on the field, kind of like Nate Hobbs, where I'd have confidence playing if Hobbs was playing safety. I'd have confidence if Hobbs was playing on the outside. I'd have confidence in Hobbs if he's in the slot. Hobbs is the best in the slot, just like Simmons is best at free safety. But then again, would you rather have Justin Simmons on the field or Brandon Facyson? Justin Simmons or somebody like Ja'Cory Bennett? I'm probably going to go with Justin Simmons. Let's go to number 2 here. It's Xavier Howard, and he has worked with Patrick Graham, Rob Leonard, and Gerald Alexander. He's got 15 interceptions in 2 years with Alexander as the DB coach with the Miami Dolphins, those years back in 2019 and in 2020. He was medically cleared before the NFL draft, which is some information that him and his agent put out there. And he's started at least 13 games in the last 4 years. I know a lot of people, when you bring up X, people always say, oh, he's always banged up. Which, you're not wrong. He's definitely had his injury scares. And the reason why he's number 2 on my list is because went through some weird stuff this offseason. I don't want to get into all the dynamics of it. If you want to look up what Xavier Howard did, it's just weird. I mean, it's just weird. That's how I'll leave it. So because of that, and because this is a team that I do think AP really wants to be close, and they want to keep all the drama on the outside, Xavier Howard, who I used to have as my number 1 free agent that I want the Raiders to go out and get, he's now number 2, which means number 1, probably not much of a shocker to a lot of people out there, it's Stephon Gilmore. I view cornerback as still the number 1 position that we need to go out and figure out a way to get better. He's played over 1,000 snaps in back-to-back seasons. Yes, he's up there in age, 33 years old, but if you're still able to play at a high level, like, I still think that he is a no-doubt top 15 corner in the NFL, and he thrives in single coverage. And when you think about the fact that he thrives in single coverage, you can put him on one side of the field. You let Jack Jones, Nate Hobbs, they're going to do their thing. But, like, to me, you see the way that the Cowboys defense played last season. That's a team built on being able to get after the quarterback, having a great defensive line, making that QB make quick decisions, and Gilmore's still good enough and able to play at that level where he's going to make guys, he's going to take advantage of those mistakes. That's exactly what the Raiders are going to do. They're going to be a defensive line. They're going to be able to bring 4. Your corners are going to be able to drop back, whether you're in man, whether you're in zone. Gilmore can still do it at a high level, and I would just love to see what he's able to do with Patrick Graham on this defense. I think it would be a really, really good signing, man. It might be the most expensive, but then again, we have the money to be able to do it. So one more time, here are the top 6 free agents that if I was the Raiders, Telesco and Pierce, I would invite these players in for at least a tryout, at least a workout, and who knows? Maybe you could end up bringing one in before the preseason. I would absolutely love that. Coming up next here on the show, one free agent that Tashawn Reed, Vic Tafur, they released an article, and they had a free agent linked to the Silver and Black, which I was just really, really surprised about. So I'll talk about who that is in a second because he does have connections to Telesco. But because of those connections is why I'm actually a little bit confused about it. I'll tell you who that is in just a moment. But if anybody wants to hang out with Jeremy Chuggs and I week 1, we're going to be partying in North Carolina. If you want the details to come hang out at our free watch party, there's going to be free what? What's the right word? Free gifts. We've been giving away like Bo Jackson signed stuff. There was Josh Jacobs signed memorabilia there. There's going to be tons, and I mean tons of Raiders fans. And if you want to go, it's chatsports.com/week1. Shout out to the North Carolina Raider fans. They invited Jeremy and I, and we're going to blow the roof off this one. If you've been to some of our watch parties in the past, this one might be the biggest one we've ever done. Also, we're going to be hanging out on Saturday with some Raiders fans, and there's going to be 20 fans. We have a really, really cool Topgolf event. If you want to go, chatsports.com/Topgolf. This is going to be on Saturday night before the watch party on Sunday, September 7th. The other one is going to be September 8th. But if you have a chance to get in, if anybody's ever done a duck race before, more tickets you get here, the better chance you have to win. There's going to be prizes. There's going to be food. There's going to be drink deals. I'm terrible at golf, but you know what? I'm going to try to hit the shit out of a golf ball, and I think Chuggs looks like he can do it too. So if you want to do any of that stuff, chatsports.com/Topgolf, chatsports.com/week1. Both of those links are available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. All right, so the free agent that I'm kind of surprised that Tafer to Sean linked to the Raiders is J.C. Jackson. The reason why that I say that I'm surprised is because Jackson and Telesco's relationship ended really, really badly. Like, it did. It ended bad. Jackson wanted to get the hell out of LAC. He went back to New England. It just was no good whatsoever. And for me, from a Raiders standpoint, I'm like, all right, so this guy's been a Patriot, and then he's had a bad relationship with Telesco. I'm a little bit confused on the connection. I hope that the Raiders, if they do bring in a corner, like, why would you bring in Jackson when you could bring in an Xavier Howard, a Stephon Gilmore? Jackson would help out this defense, but I'm just saying this would be a little bit of a strange one to me. Since Emmanuel Ogbah ended up signing with Miami, I had a few people ask me, Mitch, could the Raiders potentially trade for Hassan Reddick, who's with the New York Jets? And this is kind of a weird situation because back on April 1st, Reddick got traded from the Eagles to the Jets, and he's been in, like, Japan, and he's been doing all sorts of stuff, but he's looking for a new contract, right? Like, he's looking for a brand new deal, and until that happens, I don't know what's going to happen. I did want to bring this up, though, because I already know what's going to happen. There's going to be people in the national media, probably going to be ESPN, probably going to be Mike Greeny and all these other dudes over there that are Jets fans. They're probably going to draw up some trades for Hassan Reddick, for Devontae Adams, just because that's what they're going to do. And I'm just telling you ahead of time. Just remember, Devontae's going to stay a Raider. There's going to be no trades that happen with Devontae to start the season. If the Raiders are really, really bad, which God, I hope not, then yeah, then anything's possible on the table. But I'm telling you, you're just going to hear it. Just know that it's not going to happen. All right, before we get out of here today, here is the schedule for the Raiders report. I'm going to my bachelor party the 25th and the 29th. So I won't be around, though I will pull up for at least an hour with Chuggs at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Friday for Raiders Friday Happy Hour. Figured we'd hang out, have a good time. And then if any breaking news happens, Chuggs has got you covered. So whether that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, following, the 25th, basically the 29th, if any big-time news happens, Chuggs got you covered. Chuggs is also going to be making some videos for you guys as well. So make sure once he does drop a vid, you guys are showing him love. He's going to be putting in a lot of time and effort here for the nation. Much love to everybody out there. And if anybody has any bachelor party recommendations for Mexico, let me know.